Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to today's event, Take Service Management to a Whole New Level. My name is Lori Quackenbush. I'm with APMG out of New York, and I am delighted to be your host today. We have Shanice over in our social chat, so please let us know your name and city from where you're joining, and feel free to get involved in the chat, put your questions in the panel in the chat, and we'll answer them during the live show. So today we're going to be discussing how to take IT service management to a whole new level, enabling you to deliver world-class services to your organization. Now, there's a quote I really like from Arthur Clarke. It says, any science or technology which is sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic. I really like that. We have a very experienced panel today, so let's jump right in and meet them. First, we have Jessica Briggs Sullivan. She is a passionate IT professional with 20 years of experience in many realms of implementation and support of IT service management. She really enjoys problem solving, improving processes, and helping people create sustainable practices that make your jobs easier to do. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, good morning. Just want to do a quick shout out to all of my friends out there. Thanks for joining today, and to all of those people that have been laid off recently as part of the tech layoffs. I just want to give a quick amount of love to you all. I'm thinking about you.
Well, we appreciate having you here. So thanks, Jessica.
Thanks, Lori.
I also have the distinct pleasure to introduce Mark Rovers. He's president of Interprom, and Mark's passion is in educating and coaching leaders, professionals, and teams, which he's been doing for 3 decades. And I do want to give a little personal shout out to Mark, as I just finished a few months ago my FITSM certification, and he was my trainer, and he's really, really phenomenal. So, hi, Mark. Thank you.
Hi, Lori. Hello, everybody. Thanks for the shout out, Lori. Appreciate that. And thank you to the production team of APMG who's making this possible. Shanice, Karen, Nigel, thank you so much for this event. I look forward to the questions and sharing what we can help you with, how we can help you taking your service management to the next level.
Well, let's get started. We have a lot of great questions coming through today. Let's get into it. Our very first one, this one's going to go to Jessica. If you had to start an ITSM implementation or process improvement strategy at your company tomorrow, where would you begin?
Good question. I would start with FITSM's capability maturity assessment. You can actually find it for free online. We'll provide a QR code for that here soon. And this is where you can determine your ITSM scope, your target capability levels, and determine where you're at in maturity levels. Once you've utilized the assessment, I'd look at prioritizing the requirements that are needed, then prioritizing those requirements that need to go in and improved, and to decide what are our quick wins so that we can get those moved in, and then start implementing across our IT service management processes.
That's a great answer. It's all about, process improvements, right? So
Absolutely.
I love that. Thank you for that. All right, our next question is, okay, this is going to go to Mark. Mark, in your experience, what was the hardest process to implement, and did you get stuck?
No process is easy. Although they might be simple on paper, it's not easy because guess what? You're dealing with people when you start implementing processes, and that may look like sometimes like herding cats, as in, hey, didn't you know that this was the direction? And then, but either way, most organizations have focused on implementing the operational processes, and they came with their own challenges. One that stands out is, of course, configuration management. But most organizations that I'm aware of actually got stuck after that. A few made it to tactical or strategic processes, and now the tough part there is that you get into different levels of the organization. You get into more dependencies on the rest of the organization. It's no longer just an IT thing, so to speak. So you'd have less control over it. And yeah, speaking about getting stuck, that's where organizations, in my opinion, got stuck. And with a lean ITSM standard, as what FitSM is providing to us, it basically helps you to say, you know what? If we meet these requirements on these operational levels, move on to these processes at the tactical and strategic level, and start focusing on those requirements. In other words, you won't get stuck if you just keep going, keep moving forward, and also hit these higher levels, so to speak, processes. And not to say that they're therefore easier, but it definitely comes more within reach if you just focus on the minimal requirements that you would put in place per the FitSM standard.
That's great. Thank you for that. That's a great response. We have so many questions in here today, folks. Our next one is, okay, I'm sorry. How do you keep your employees engaged when implementing FitSM or while working in an ITSM environment? Jessica, you mind taking this one for us?
Well, here's some examples of how to keep people engaged. First of all, clear communication, who, what, when, where, why, and how. These things need to be answered. If people understand the why, they're more likely to stay engaged. They understand the purpose. Training and development, that's huge. Help people understand your processes and also grow their career. If they feel like you're invested in them, they'll be invested in your process improvements. Rewards and recognition, celebrate the wins as you go. I can't tell you how many times this is missed in a project plan or in your implementation of IT service management. And that keeps people from burnout. Involve your process teams and decision making. It shouldn't be just your executives leading the change. Allow your people to grow into leaders as part of this rollout. You can really see people shine and step up. Provide clear goals and expectations. What are your KPIs? What are your performance indicators that show that you're done? What does done look like? Empowering your employees, and then providing adaptability and flexibility. Implementations aren't always easy, and change in general is hard. So be agile and adjust as necessary to help employees feel more at ease.
Yeah, that's spot on. Spot on. Now we do have a couple of comments I wanted to mention from the chat. So we have plenty of people in the chats right now. So I just want to say hello. Hi, Sarvan from India. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Hi, Elizabeth. Good morning to you. And hello from London. We really appreciate you guys joining us today. And thanks for being involved in the chat. And again, don't forget to go ahead and submit any questions that you have. Hopefully we'll get to all of them. We have quite a few to go through today, but we'll try to address any live questions if we can. So thank you. All right, so now let's get on to our next question. Our next question. Okay. Can you share some examples of how improving IT employee experiences has positively impacted an organization's overall performance? Did you want to get into this, Jessica?
Why don't we throw that one over to Mark?
Mark?
No problem at all. So yeah, the employee experience, I was actually going to add to the question that was asked to Jessica a few moments ago. You know what I like about that FitSM standard? That it has built in a requirement that says you need to make sure that any employee in your organization involved in this service management initiative approach, any employee involved should be aware and should be transparent to them how they contribute to the success of the program and therefore also the success of the organization. Meaning, you should see immediately, because of your contributions, we're better off. We're providing better services. We have better quality of processes. We're more successful as an organization, as an IT organization, as a whole organization. And that transparency, to me, is so critical. If you get that confirmation, daily, as in it's because of me, of course, and the rest of the team, but this is my part, this is my share to the success of the organization. I simply love that requirement, as in it needs to be visible, it needs to be something that people can see and are aware of as a highly motivator to keep them engaged.
That's great. Great response. I really appreciate it. All right, let's move on to our next question. Our next question is, how do you see the future of ITSM evolving, particularly in the context of changing work environments and employee expectations? That's a great question. Jessica, what do you think? Do you mind taking this one?
Sure. Start with lean. The leaner, the better. If you make things too complicated and hard to do, it won't get done. I've seen processes or requirements that had people jumping through hoops to get an incident resolved or a change request submitted. Of course, there are regulations and standards, but keep it simple always. KISS, right? Always ask the question, how do you make it easier for our process users, and how do we reward people for using it well? Of course, automation and AI will undoubtedly come into play, and people and teams, companies out there should be thinking about those things. But look at it as an opportunity to bring your ITSM teams front and center into that field. That could be an opportunity for them to learn AI and to automate some of their own processes.
Yeah, there's so many changes out there too,
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep. All right, Mark, did you want to comment before we move on to the next question? Any thoughts on this?
The future of ITSM evolving in the context of the changing work environment. I'm expecting that the automation of tasks will continue, mainly now that we have the AI opportunities.
Absolutely.
So it's no longer just the routine tasks that can now be automated, but also more analytical tasks. So I see huge opportunities in that area. I think the predictability will be something else that can be automated going forward with the help of AI. I mean,
Right.
my answers evolves around AI, obviously. I think there's a tremendous opportunity to alleviate, again, the non-routine tasks and automate those, and therefore free up the time for employees, for departments to become hopefully more forward thinking and spend time more on strategic aspects, road mapping, and having service strategies that not only look into the future for 1 year, but maybe longer than that, 2-3 years at least. In other words, setting up the organization for longevity, long-term success. Again, also helping the service owners. If you think about it,
Right.
What will my service do going forward? And then throw in these parameters of the market conditions and what the competition is doing. Again, I think with all the opportunities we have with AI, any service provider or service delivery type organization can set itself up much stronger and be much better positioned.
That's a really good insight there. I can't agree with you more on AI. It just seems like it's taking over the world. Love it or hate it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, our next question. What are some creative ways IT leaders can enhance the employee experience within their IT departments? Mark, can I keep you on for that one?
Sure. The employee experience, I mean, as I mentioned in my previous answer, it's all about the people. When you get into these adoptions of service management, what's in it for them, what's in it for the team, the organization. So enhancing that experience again goes to motivating them, keeping them motivated, and don't keep them bogged down on lengthy implementations of processes. I've run into organizations spending years and years and years on all these operational processes instead of, hey, good is good enough, let's move on and
Right.
let's tackle another one. I think that also is a highly motivator for people to stay engaged and not doze off with, oh, we need to do another metric or we need to do another best practice. At one point, you want to keep it exciting also for employees, whether they're in the operational space or the tactical strategic space. by keeping them engaged with more automation
Yeah.
and continue that continual improvement journey.
That makes perfect sense. Jessica, you had your hand raised. Did you want to add something to this?
Sure. I was going to just say, don't be afraid to have fun. ITSM, sometimes it's seen as boring, and you see a lot of silos in your IT departments, especially your service management departments. Don't be afraid to bring people together, brainstorm solutions, build a fun team. Really, find things to do. How about writing elevator pitches together for your new process improvement? There's a ton of things that you can do as an IT service management team to make coming to fun daily a joy. And I can't dismiss that at all. It reduces turnover and ultimately strengthens your IT department and your company.
Absolutely. I like that. Keep it fun. Keep it fun.
Absolutely.
All right, our next one, and we're going to hang on to you, Jessica, here. What are some essential best practices when working with stakeholders in your ITSM deployment?
Voice of customer, voice of process, voice of your stakeholders in general. Continually gaining feedback and insights from your customers as well as your process teams is fundamental. You need to have that in place. The continual improvement aspect of IT service management really should be the fun part of it. This is the exciting part. If your backlog of improvements are hard to work because of time or the process is being too heavy, that's exactly why CSI is needed, continual service improvement. It's both the problem and the solution. There may be companies that have created processes for idea management, but giving your employees brainstorming hours once a week is another way to do it without implementing an entire process. Get creative. Problem solving is a great way to bring your teams together, so utilize it.
Love it. Love that. Mark, did you want to add to that?
For sure. That I want to build on what Jessica ended up with, giving people the freedom to do things. There is this story that about 30 years or so, there was some research that was done showing how little organizations were tapping into people's creativity. And a lot of it had to do with people being so busy and their agendas and calendars being packed to the max, where there was no time to do anything to make their jobs, for example, easier or better or go smoother. And some organizations responded to that by giving them some free time, in essence, to do almost whatever they felt like doing. And the majority started improving their own work. What's wrong with that, right? It even led to some individuals improving services and coming up with new services. Some of them were even sellable for these organizations. So I think these best practices, continual service improvement, it's an underrated process, unfortunately, in many organizations. It's one of those as in, oh, we have to do that too. This is one where organizations can stand out by giving the freedom and focusing and making the resources available, focusing on this is part of your job. This is what we expect, that you continuously improve your own work, other processes, and the sky is the limit when it comes to that. In other words, there's always room for improvement. Nothing will ever be perfect. So set aside that time and those resources, and give people some breathing room, basically to truly have a culture that says we continuously improve, and it's encouraged, and it's not seen as in, oh, somebody made a mistake, so now I have to do some additional work to fix somebody else's mistakes. It's not about that at all.
Yeah. You're making a lot of really good points. We were talking about, fun, freedom, creativity. It all really makes sense. It's so good to really get your insight on this. So we really appreciate you doing this today. All right, let's get to our next question. They are piling up today. Our next question is, how do you ensure that your processes are integrated and process workers understand these integrations? Mark, do you mind?
Not at all. I'm so glad with this question, because going back to the traditional frameworks that did talk about there are some process interfaces for you to consider. what I experience is that not every ITSM adoption was paying attention to that. It was almost as in you really had to push hard to convince the folks, as in you have to do this too, because these integrations of these processes, in essence, are sharing with you. They're telling you this is how you collaborate. This is how you communicate with each other. So taking care of these integrations, whether that's through automation, where data is being exchanged, or whether that's through a meeting, or whether that's through a collaboration platform. There's many forms in which you can implement that integration. Needs to be addressed, and the FITSM standard actually has built-in requirements, as in, you shall have process integrations. It doesn't say it like that, but that's what it comes down to. And that way it ensures that in the end, you implement that service management system. That's what they're talking about in the standard. Right. So this system becomes a well-oiled machine of all these processes. So these processes don't end up becoming their own silo. We have enough silos already to deal with. And because of these integrations, you make it a system where dependencies are taken into account, because we all know if you change something on the right-hand side, the left-hand side doesn't know what you're doing. It's all being prevented by these integrations of processes that, again, come in many forms and shapes, that have to be addressed, that have to be owned by somebody who is, mostly dependent on these integration, or that particular integration. So again, it helps people to collaborate. It helps people to understand the complexity that comes with this. It shines a light on it. It makes things more transparent as when it's about all these dependencies. So again, the standard FITSM has built in these requirements. I cannot emphasize it enough. Follow them, meet those requirements, and take care of these integrations, because that's the only way that your service eventually will be efficient and effective, and is not limping on two legs, or one leg, so to speak, because of an integration that is failing. Right.
Makes a lot of sense. And we do have quite a few live questions coming in, but we're going to take a couple more and then we're going to get to those. So our next question is, okay, I'm going to pass this on to you, Jessica, if you do not mind. Which artifacts are most important when fulfilling these requirements?
Using the FITSM requirements will tell you the process, what the process needs to work. So from experience, though, I highly recommend standardizing templates used for processes, putting together a PDD, a process design document that has the same information for each process, and then having a change management SOP template that looks and feels exactly like the incident management SOP will help teams utilize these tools faster. It's really a knowledge management essential. How do we make it as easy as possible for people to utilize this information? Having it all in one standard doc will actually ultimately save you a lot of time and pain in the future. Knowledge management will increase, and ultimately your users of your process will be more successful.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Thank you. Really good question. Really good answer. Really good question. All right, next up, we've just got these questions flowing today, guys. The next one, whatever happened to end-to-end service management? Mark, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, that was a popular phrase, a decade or two ago? that was the news thing on the block, and you kept wondering, what to do with it, and how do we fit it in. To me, personally, it also became more transparent as far as what the intent was eventually. Definitely when the ISO IC 20000 standard was released with, again, that service management system approach, and then almost a decade later, FITSM, following the same concepts as far as having a service management system in place, which is an end-to-end system.
Right.
When it is for IT, you can expand that, and I think we have a live question. I'll elaborate on that a little bit later. But whatever happened to end-to-end service management, I think the frameworks, the traditional frameworks, have focused too much on the individual processes and introduced therefore silos and never made it. There's too many examples, unfortunately. As I said earlier, to these strategic and tactical processes, you never ever got to experience the full effectiveness and efficiencies that are built in any framework, any standard. Yeah, if you miss out on some of these processes and you don't focus on them and you don't do anything with it, again, it's only a four-cylinder engine that runs on one cylinder. It's as in you're missing out on some power here.
Right.
And if I just look at the end-to-end just for the IT organization that is adopting ITSM, it has to do with lacking on integrations and lacking on process optimizations in the tactical and strategic layers. And yeah, again, that's where it misses out. Plus, we have already touched on the people aspect, right? If you don't take care of your people along with improving processes, and if you don't spend enough time on automation of these processes, because it's in the end not about the process, it's about the automation, the people, and the customer, obviously.
Right.
Again, you're missing out on that whole end-to-end notion where customer requirements come in and quality services come out. And again, if that engine only runs on one cylinder, the services coming out are not of the best quality.
Right. Absolutely. Jessica, what are your thoughts?
I was just going to mention, I've seen process implementations, complete end-to-end service management process implementations where some processes were focused on heavily, like change management, release management, incident management, problem management, that kind of thing. But then you would see the processes like strategy, service request fulfillment, other processes that weren't able to provide any value. And then the teams were cut, they were eliminated, the processes would completely disappear. And so you completely lost on your end-to-end, and you also are missing the value that those processes could have completed. So so once you get a strong process in place, if you don't look at building the rest of your processes and using FitSM with the 14 processes and very specific requirements, that's a great place to go to. But you miss the value of your complete service management process. Right. You'll see people coming in from other companies for their new jobs, and they go, where's the strategy team, or where's the service request fulfillment team, or where's incident, where's problem? And those things just don't exist because they failed.
It's so true. So true. All right. So we have another question that just came in. So can you share a memorable or amusing anecdote about a successful FitSM implementation? Mark, I'm putting this on you.
Thank you for the question. I immediately go back to another episode we did about FitSM, and we did it together with a CIO who actually adopted FitSM for his organization. Initially, this CIO was dabbling into the ITIL space and changed his mind and switched over to FitSM, as in this is more appropriate for his organization, for his situation. And it turned out that with the help of some automation, the customer satisfaction in his organization went up through the roof. I mean, he was the hero. He was they almost worshipped. We're so happy with you. And he actually was recognized in that particular state as far as his accomplishments that he, of course, did together with his team, with the help of FitSM and appropriate automation, that he won a huge award, and it's still on his profile. It's one of the highlights of his career. A smaller example is I spoke with a CIO a few weeks ago who I also introduced to FitSM, and he opened up to me and said, Mark, that was actually the highlight of 2023 to me. Wow. So that was a nice one. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah. Jessica, did you want to add to that?
I mean, I could tell some stories about previous ITSM implementations. My favorite, really, after a successful implementation, our CIO literally said, "I'm moving on. It's time to go." And I thought, things are going great. Our processes are working. We've matured tenfold this, over the past year. And he said, always leave on the high, Jessica. Never wait until you're sliding off the side of the mountain. And so I thought, okay, well, that's a good lesson learned. But hey, it really made me feel good that all of the hard work was paying off, and then that he felt like it was a good time to go.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thanks for the insight, guys, and sharing some stories. I love it. Absolutely love it. All right, now we're going to get into some of our live questions. So our next live question here, we've got quite a few coming in, is implementing. I love this so much. I knew somebody was going to stir the pot a little bit here. Implementing ITIL is very costly. How does FitSM compare from a cost perspective? I love this so much. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yes. Well, yes. These ITIL implementations, they can definitely run up the bill, considering, you're looking at what is it, 30-something processes now, if you want to follow, what they recommend. Of course, that rarely happens. But then, where do you start? Where do you end? And these become indeed endless implementations that go on for years and years, depleting resources and motivation levels, and what else. With FitSM, it's totally different. It's 82 requirements. There's a clear start and an end. And of course, once you've met these 82 requirements, you get into the continual improvement mode. So it is a program. It is still a journey, but at least you know that after these 82 requirements, you have a service management system in place that is, end to end, that is well integrated, a well-oiled machine, allowing you basically to wrap your arms around whatever goes on in your organization. So it's therefore less of a cost factor. It's much more of, hey, if we do the bare minimum, we're in good shape. And then even when Jessica mentioned earlier these self-assessment, the self-assessment that comes with FitSM, where you can clearly see, that you're improving and improving over time, also from a continual service improvement perspective. I've challenged IT organizations that were big into ITIL to do the FitSM assessments, and quite embarrassing to notice that even with the bare minimum what FitSM is asking from you was not met by these humongous ITIL implementations. So they could have saved themselves a little bit of money if they would simply have focused on the bare minimum, and then after that you can always add, right? You can always do more. But let's get at least that plateau, that foundation going, those 82 requirements, those 14 processes, and then build on that and go forward after that.
Yeah, that's great. A great perspective there. Absolutely. All right, we have a lot more live questions coming in, so I'm going to move us along to the next one. This is a long one. All right, how notable is the decreasing emphasis on IT service management among vendors, with a shift towards enterprise service management, focusing on a wider organizational scope encompassing services beyond IT, such as financial, HR, and facilities management? And I love this question. Mark, what do you think?
I'll take that one. Yeah, thank you. Great question. Thank you for that, whomever submitted this. So I am going to base my answer on a real world story that happened when an organization reached out to me and said, we are part of a shared services organization, and we're IT combined with HR and financial management. They didn't have vendor management or facilities in it, but the whole shared service organization had explored FitSM, which is very easy because on fitsm.eu, everything is for free. It's easy to explore. And concluded this is something that is not only helpful for IT, but also for HR and for financial management. So they made it as simple as in whenever the standard said IT, IT service management, they just stripped the word IT and called it service management. And we had several training sessions, we had some coaching sessions, and it's the of course folks in HR and the folks in financial management. Sometimes you have to be a little bit creative when it's about the interpretation of these requirements, but with a little nudge, and it didn't take a lot. It was very easy for them to say, yes, we have that too. We also have services. We also have these processes. We also have problems that we have to deal with, or changes that we have to deal with, and we need to have the proper documentation and worry about availability and capacity. It was not that hard for them to basically understand the intent of the standard, and then applying these recommendations of the standards to their own environment. So yeah, we designed processes for all of them, and they all benefited from it. And because of that, they were basically on the same page. They made use of the same technology, and it was again a huge boost for them as far as their collaboration and efficiency gains were just through the roof. So don't get too hung up when it's about the FITSM standard. When they advertise it as an IT service management standard, it absolutely is applicable to other service provider type organizations or departments.
Yeah, I found this specifically fascinating. So I don't have an IT background. I came from Wall Street finance and some marketing. So when I took the FITSM course, I was amazed at how much it really wasn't just all about IT, how you could really, this could translate into so many different areas of service management. Right. So I was really, really pleasantly surprised at how well that translated. Jessica, what are your thoughts?
I was just going to mention, and the value and the benefit of having your HR teams, your finance teams, even your facility teams aligned with your IT processes. Like, that's huge. I think about how in my last corporation, how big the walls were between those departments, the silos, the way they got things done were so separate. It was like working with people from Mars. So having people aligned, having people using the same kind of structured fundamental processes and documentation, that's huge. And when you think about service management or IT service management, it really is about providing services to our business. And that's exactly what HR does. That's exactly what facilities does. That's exactly what finance does. So when you break down IT service management, it really is about how do we help our customers work efficiently, fast, and provide value and save money and help people be happier.
Absolutely. What a great question. Thank you so much for the live questions. We really, really appreciate it. These are fantastic. All right. I think we still have some time left to keep going. So next question. Can you discuss the significance of defining key roles like process owners, service owners, and product owners in implementing and maintaining an efficient ITSM solution? Organizations face challenges like silos and duplicated efforts when roles are unclear or multiple. Mark, we'll start with you.
I'll keep it short and toss it to Jessica in a second. But the significance of defining these key roles is, of course, huge. You want to be specific when it's about who owns a particular process. Not so much to make this person accountable, as in, hey, if something goes wrong, it's your fault. It remains a team effort, and it remains ideally a shared ownership approach, where it says in the process owners combined, own up to the success. Again, go back to these process integrations, right? There's always these dependencies. But having clear ownership is critical, especially, if you think about a service or a product for that matter. If your service is doing what it needs to do today, what does it mean in 2 or 3 years from now when the market has shifted or your competition is doing other things? What is your service strategy in essence? What your service should be doing in the next 3 years? You definitely want to assign ownership to that, to give at least one person, or preferably multiple, the responsibility to think forward. And if I go back to the AI answer, what I gave earlier, having the time now available when we can automate also these non-routine tasks, it allows you to, as a service owner, as a process owner, to spend a lot more time on future developments and future strategies around your processes and services.
Right. Absolutely. Jessica, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's fundamental. Hopefully, most companies have this in place, but having an SOP with a RACI built in, so that people understand exactly what their roles and responsibilities are. They can see exactly what your process owner is accountable for. They can see exactly what your process manager is responsible for. You can see who's supporting the teams in getting things done. And you have step-by-step instructions on how to get those things completed with that RACI and on the same page. Make it easy.
Right. Absolutely. Like you said earlier,
Yeah.
keep it simple. Right. All right. We, I think, have time for some more of our live questions. Okay. So is FitSM only useful for organizations starting out with service management, or it can be used by organizations that already have implemented IT service management? Mark, what do you think?
Definitely for both. Yes. Organizations that are in the beginning of the journey indeed use FitSM. Get the quick wins going, as in these are the minimal things you should be doing to manage your incidents, changes, and so on, and then build on that. But also for organizations already well into this journey, I challenge almost to take the FitSM-6 assessment, do a self-assessment for that matter, and see where you're at. And if you can check all the boxes, good for you. But if you don't, can I say shame on you? That's kind of harsh. Because you've done it all this time, and you don't even meet the minimal requirements of the ITSM or service management concepts. So I would definitely say complement your existing efforts with what FitSM has to offer. And think again of these process integrations. Think of the end-to-end service management, and think of becoming more strategic and get out of this operational mode.
Right. Great response. And again, thanks everybody for all these great live questions that are coming through. It's wonderful. We really, really appreciate it. All right. Our next one is on the ITEMO website. It stated that FITSM standard and associated certification schemes are maintained by the ITEMO FITSM working group. Who takes part at this working group? Who would like to take this one?
It's my understanding. Yeah, sorry, I raised the hand, but I didn't. It's my understanding. So I'm not part of the working group, so I'm probably not the expert on this one. But it's my understanding that, well, first and foremost, what I do know is that ITEMO is a nonprofit organization, and it was basically under the direction of the European Union that FITSM was put together. But the European Union said, actually, literally, what's out there right now is too complex, it's too bulky. And of course, they had ITIL and ISO in the back of their minds. And they said it needs to be lean. It needs to be,
Right.
simple. In other words, simple doesn't mean easy, but at least, dumb it down to the bare minimum. And I said it respectfully. So they definitely looked at what's out there and what makes sense. We should do it at the very least. It's my understanding that industry representatives are participating in these working groups. It's not just a brain dump of one, genius person that we now have to follow. They listen to the market, and they do their job very thoroughly. That's my understanding as well, and it shows in the results what they put forward, as in scaling back on something that can be humongous, and still making sure it's an end-to-end, well-oiled machine you eventually put in place. It's not for dummies, with all respect.
Right.
I say that, yeah.
Right. All right, we have about 15 minutes, so we're going to try to get to a few more of these live questions. Our next one, what are the ethical considerations and potential implications of using emerging technologies such as AI and automation in service management? Mart, I know you already kind of talked about this. Did you want to take it from here, or Jessica, did you want to comment on this?
The ethical considerations, when it's about using, AI, for example, um, it's as I said earlier, AI will help us with automating non-routine tasks. And I'm not saying non-routine jobs, and I say that for a reason. There is a lot of fear about that, and some organizations they thrive on, just spreading it all over. I was listening to a presentation actually last week from Massachusetts Information Technology, the Institute, MIT. Um, and the speaker was a well-established person in this space and made it very clear. We're talking here about the automation of tasks, portions of people's jobs, and I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
As in, is it ethical? Look at it from the positive side, as in making your jobs also easier.
Yeah.
While your job may have never been touched because of automation, because it was only routine task, and what you do as an analyst is not routine. Freeing up your calendar and allowing you to do other things, I think that's definitely ethical. If you would rephrase the question as in
Ethical.
the security aspects, I think there is definitely a lot that needs to be addressed. Where did you get the data from? Is the data clean? Isn't it biased? So from that perspective, I think there's a lot that needs to be put in place. You have your own guardrails around that. This is why some organizations don't even tap into data from elsewhere. They only use their own data and protect it very, very heavily so it doesn't hit the street, so to speak. So in that area, I think some regulations might be helpful.
Yeah.
They should be coming, and some countries already have them. So there's some work to be done, but also it's not a matter of waiting on the government. You can do a lot yourself to begin with when it's about that.
Yeah. Very well thought out. Jessica, what are your thoughts?
I was just going to say, think about scope. When using AI or even automation, what are some things that we know that are ethically going to be okay? What are some things that you can start with simply by saying, yes, this is okay to use ChatGPT to build a template for an SOP. Like that, there's not going to be a data or security risk. We
Right.
don't have to pull anything offline. We can literally use it and read off of it and build our template, right? So those are some simple things you can start with. And then start looking at the meatier things, like what does this mean if we try to automate, this data system that's pulling data from the cloud and putting it into our database so that we can solve incidents. Like that's a harder question and that needs more time and more thought put around it. But you don't need to start there. Start somewhere simpler and then move to those things that are ultimately going to change the way your business works.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we have time for a few more live questions here. So let's see what we've got next. Next is what are some thoughts on service management KPIs, introduction and management that drives data versus leadership perception? Any key KPIs? Who would like to tackle this one?
I can
All right.
raise my hand on that one. So.
See who's faster at raising their hand.
I'll start on this one and then Mark can follow up. So, KPIs, there's a lot of industry KPIs out there. Mean time to resolve, there's first contact resolution rate for incidents, there's technician utilization, how long does it take to solve a major incident, service availability. There's all kind of industry best practices, so that might be a good place to start with your KPIs. Another way is literally looking at your process that you're putting in place and going, how do we know this is working?
Right.
How do we use
Right.
data to tell us that we are achieving our goal? So that's dumb it down as much as possible so that you know how to track and utilize that KPI to help you improve.
Yeah. We used to say in digital marketing, what does success look like? What's it look
Exactly.
like?
Yeah, start there.
Right. Mark, what do you think?
I go back to what I've experienced many times is that when you leave it up to organizations to choose their KPIs, there seems to be a tendency to go to efficiency related KPIs,
Right.
saving time, saving money. There seems to be kind of the comfort zone. However, from a maturity perspective, an organizational maturity perspective, KPIs focusing on effectiveness show a higher level of maturity for an organization. So, as leaders, challenge yourself and see KPIs that focus on effectiveness. Yes, you may, balance that with efficiency KPI. I'm not saying they're not important, but in essence, have these effectiveness KPIs outnumber your efficiency KPIs. That might not be the case
Interesting.
in the beginning, but over
Right.
time, that's what the trend should be. As in efficiencies, there's only so much efficiency that we can build in, but
Yeah.
effectiveness that can always be done better, and we can always strive, for better quality. In other words, focus on effectiveness KPIs. Don't forget about them.
That's interesting. I never thought of it that way. So that's some really good new insight. Appreciate that. All right. What role does customer feedback and sentiment analysis play in improving service management processes and outcomes? Another great question. These are all coming in live, guys. So thank you so much, Jessica.
It should be an essential part of your service management process. If your customer has challenges using your process or can't use it or finds it hard and difficult, they may not use your product anymore. They may,
Right.
and we think about,
Mhm.
your internal customers, your actual users of your processes, your change users, your incident users. If they can't, what do employees do if they have a hard time using doing their job? They find better and more effective ways of doing it on the side. They find their own workarounds. And if your processes are that hard to control and manage, you're probably not catching those workarounds happening. So it's difficult. You'll have a difficult process to manage. So absolutely, I go back to voice of customer. You should. I recommend doing it, at least yearly, if not more, every 6 months or an ongoing basis. Allowing people to provide feedback and then using that feedback to improve your processes, putting that information right into your backlog and then planning it out in, your future sprint is going to pay off in dividends. When people feel like they're heard, they're more likely to be supportive of your processes in the future.
Isn't that so true? Just the importance of feeling the need to be heard. It just
Absolutely.
so important.
Absolutely.
So
Employee
important.
engagement.
Absolutely. All right. How can service management practices be adapted to better support remote or distributed work environments? Who wants to take this one?
Let's see,
Crickets.
remote and distributed work environments. If you use that word distributed work environments, we know what FitSM has built in service integration. It calls it federation of services. In other words, following their recommendations ensures, in essence, whether you do it on site or remotely, these services are to be integrated. So that would be, one answer. As far as remote or doing something on site, I mean, there's always work that has to be done on site. If it gets into, physical infrastructure, it's hard to do that remotely. Well, maybe if we get into robotics, who knows? Yes, it's already happening. But that was not my immediate thought. But it all goes back to the automation of your processes, and the opportunities there are, of course, limitless. Of course, there's budget involved. I get that. I always mentioned, process improvements, service management implementations. It's not about the documentation. It's not about I need a procedure for this. It doesn't stop there. It goes on. You need to automate what you're doing,
Right.
and automation is key. It's actually one of the requirements as well in FitSM, as far as what is the tooling that you use behind your service management system. And when you do this right, over time, you want to see that more and more tools and software is being used to automate whatever you're doing. So the process automation is something that is huge, and it's not one monstrous tool that we're talking about. Yes, don't get too hung up on those, but seek other ways to automate your work. Robotics is one opportunity. Internet of Things, never forget
Internet of
about that.
Things.
It's
Yeah.
a big one. AI is a big one.
Yeah.
So automate, automate, automate. That would be my answer.
Love it. So true. All right. I think this is going to have to be our last question, guys, because we're getting a little close to the end here for time. Where can I get trained on FitSM? I know where. Mark.
Yeah, you had to go through that pain, right? No kidding.
Amazing. Did I
No,
mention he's an amazing trainer? He is.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there is plenty of training available around the globe for FitSM, so that's it's a good thing. It's a worldwide phenomenon. It's something that again can be done on site or virtually. The beauty of the FitSM training courses is that it's short, it's lean, just like FitSM, it's lean. So it's a foundation course it's a 1 day class, 14 processes. I mean, we don't have to get crazy on adding another 20 or something and then having to spend 3 days, right? So same for the advanced courses. There's 2 advanced courses, each for 2 days. They each focus on 7 processes each, and totaling make it 14. And then the expert level is also 2 days. People already ITIL expert certified or IC 20000 certified at a consulting or auditor level can actually bridge their certification and become an FitSM expert in just 2 days. In other words, it's fairly affordable. Time-wise, it's not a huge investment. Given that it's short duration courses, the exams, thank you APMG, are definitely doable. It's not as in, oh dear, how in the world will I pass for this one? It's all within reach and definitely doable. Plus, again, you have all the information freely available. So it's something I recommend even when you're expert certified in whatever level. Consider
or not at all.
Complementing it. Yeah, or not at all. Exactly. Yeah, indeed. Complementing it or adding it to it. I have actually people in other areas like business relation managers, for example, who seek FitSM certification to have a better understanding what needs to happen in their IT organization. You can say the same for the business analysts, for strategists. In a very quick way, you can get up to speed on what IT should be doing.
Right. All right, well, we are getting close to time, guys. We only have a couple minutes left here. So I just want to take a minute, thank all of our behind the scenes producers. Thank you so much to the audience for your great questions today. These are some phenomenal live questions for all the folks on social. Really appreciate it. So well done, guys. Thank you so much. Let's take a couple minutes and just get your guys' final thoughts. Jessica, what do you think?
FitSM, as we mentioned a few times, simple, easy way to approach getting service management done. Doesn't matter how big or small your company is, so it's a good way to move forward. And just a side note, I just learned about FitSM a few months ago, got trained up on it, and just reflecting on all the times that I could have used it over the last 20 years, and it would have made a fundamental difference in the value our processes had in place, and just the frustration level of our ITSM teams and feeling like they got things done. So, and as a side note, my QR code's not up here, but feel free to reach out to me. I'm Jessica with a G on LinkedIn if anybody wants to talk.
Perfect. Mark, real quick, so we're running out of time. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, speaking of which, there's a QR code if you want to get in touch with me. I'll be happy to chat with you on what FitSM can do for you. I would say go big by going lean and think FitSM.
Love it. And real quick, just one last thing, guys, just so you know, over on our website, you can search for answers to over 2,500 different questions, comprehensive free resource connecting you with over 300 experts from around the world. And you can also listen to the audio versions of our shows on your preferred podcast platform. So certainly please take a minute to like, comment, share, subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It really helps everybody see our content. And we do have a couple of action-packed week coming up. So this coming Friday, the 9th, we have how to build the perfect project team. So we've got that coming up. And then again on February 12th, how to build a better business case. And then also on Friday the 16th is how to become a change manager. So lots of great stuff coming your guys' way. So please stay tuned. And again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You can see anything you need to on apmginternational.com. Thanks again to the audience. Thanks for engaging with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much to Jessica and Mark. And we really appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Thank you.